Fearless and truthful.
Provocative and controversial.
We say it like it really is.
With dignity and respect.
Committed to free speech and common sense. Upbeat and entertaining.
Straight talking and direct.
We may agitate each other and you.
Thought-provoking, heartfelt and passionate.
Hello and welcome to a brand new season of The Pledge. It's a new year, a new decade, and for many of us, a new chance to make New Year's resolutions we absolutely won't break this year. While some people are dusting off gym leggings that haven't been worn since last January, others are taking on a whole new challenge. Brace yourself, Nick. Veganuary. And with milk, cheese, meat and fish all off the menu, it's no surprise that Have a Go vegans rejoiced earlier this week when fast food chain Burger King introduced its very own plant-based burger, the Rebel Whopper. But their excitement was short-lived. As, in a twist like no other, it turns out the soy sandwich is cooked on the same grill as the beef burgers, making it not suitable for vegans or even vegetarians. Well, there's always next year. Hey. Coming up, Greg thinks President Trump is playing a dangerous game. Michelle says Labour needs to face up to reality. Femi's had enough of the fat cats in finance, and I want politicians to take real action on climate change. But first, it's Nick.
A senior royal quits the firm for a life away from the spotlight with a divorced American they love. Ever heard that before? All right, it might not quite be on the scale of the abdication crisis, but make no mistake, Prince Harry and Meghan's shock decision to step down will rock the House of Windsor to its core. 20 months ago, a nation rejoiced as this fairy tale couple were married, and we watched as the British royal family, an institution that dates back to a time before even Greg was born, came bang up to date by welcoming a stunning woman of mixed heritage into their ranks. This couple have claimed they've modernised the institution, and now as part of that, they'll split their time between the UK and North America and, quotes, work to become financially independent? Don't make me laugh. Harry has given a little over £2 million from Prince Charles's funds. We've just spent £2.4 million doing up their cottage in Windsor. They're reported to have said they want to keep that house and, I assume, the protection teams we provide and pay £600,000 each year for. How's he going to achieve that on the salary of a lieutenant in the household cavalry? Cry, Harry, for England, and by George, just what's made you go from bloke to woke.
Okay, we can complain that they haven't used the money that is tax money, taxpayers' money properly. We can complain that maybe he should have told the Queen before he did this. But the question of whether or not they were right to leave, I mean, look at the Daily Mail. They ran an article that said, is Meghan's favourite snack fueling drought and murder because she happens to eat avocado on toast? To suggest that the press has given her a fair time is simply not true. So that for them to make the decision to step away from a life where they're going to be constantly and unfairly criticised in the press and hounded is a completely understandable and human thing to do.
How are they hounded? They've just had, and understandably, a 6-week break in which not one British media institution tried to follow them. How's that hounded them?
They've been hounded for the past 2 years.
No,
as I just mentioned. Would you say that's a fair article?
Femi, how are they going to avoid media scrutiny when they've decided to become A-list international celebrities rather than working members of the firm, in precedence to working members of the firm? Because I think that their idea that they can be both HRH and commercial paid speakers or presenters or whatever they want to do to advance their causes, which are all, I'm sure, extremely admirable. I think that this is an example of wanting to have your cake and eat it, that just cannot obtain in a constitutional monarchy, where your job title is your job. Your title, I should say. If you're Kate Middleton is a princess, she can't go out and monetise that.
But haven't they actually decided to go?
Full-time?
Yeah. And this is
full-time, leaving the firm full-time.
Yes, they'll go and live in America, I think. And it'll be very interesting to see where they send the child to school and all those sorts of things. But haven't they actually decided They don't like it. They don't like the life they've got. He, as we've discussed here before, has always had a tough time because of his mother's death.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's come in and she says, why are we putting up with this? And I think they've spent 6 weeks in Canada thinking what they're going to do, and they've decided...
But Rachel's is a good point. If they want to live independent financially, well, then they're going to have to market the Sussex brand. Well, you can't switch that on and off, as Rachel says, can you, Greg?
It'd be very interesting to see if they're allowed to retain the HRH title, because I don't think that the Queen or the Crown will want to see that used as in a commercial way.
But I mean, we mustn't pretend this is anything like the abdication. The abdication was when the next king abdicated. This guy is now sixth in line. He was for a long time, of course. Second in line. He's now third in line.
Yes.
He's now sixth in line. Does it really matter?
Well, Michelle, is there such a thing as duty? Or is your duty to your wife and your child and your infant son?
Well, I think it must be incredibly hard to be born into such a predicament where it doesn't matter what you want or don't want, you are just the focus of something. You're going to have attention, scrutiny. And Femi is right. These guys have been attacked and scrutinised, and unfairly in many cases, just absolutely focused on it, and it must be incredibly hard. But my problem with their announcement, which, by the way, I don't even think the Queen was privy to them doing so before they actually announced that this is what they were going to do, is, to me, I do feel a little bit like they want it all. And to Rachel's point, you want your cake and eat it, because fair enough, if you want to go and disappear into the ether and be left alone to do your own thing, I understand why you might want to do that, and certainly for them why they'd want to do that. Well, you can't be doing that on the one hand whilst then simultaneously saying we're going to split our time between the UK and North America, living in this property that you guys...
And retain the cottage? Do they keep the cottage? You can't agree with that, no.
No, what I think... No, I don't.
Still
I
owned
think
by the Queen, by the way. It's not their property.
If you're going, then you go and you give up all that goes with it. You can't just keep the best bits.
Can we not be a little bit fair? If they had chosen to completely abandon everything in the UK, there would be outrage at that. How can you completely abandon your country, the royal family, etc.? So let's not be unfair.
I think if he suddenly said, we're going to call ourselves the Waleses or whatever, and that's it, we're going to live in a log cabin in Winnipeg, it might be different. For those who might have landed from a different planet, let me just say what this announcement was from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. After many months of reflection and internal discussions, we've chosen to make a transition this year in starting to carve out a progressive new role within this institution. We intend to step back as senior members of the royal family and work to become financially independent while continuing to fully support Her Majesty the Queen. We now plan to balance our time between the United Kingdom and North America, continuing to honour our duty to the Queen, the Commonwealth and our patronages. And just to finish, Buckingham Palace responded. Discussions with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are at an early stage. We understand their desire to take a different approach, but these are complicated issues that we will take time to work through. Rachel?
I mean, I agree. We're going to hear a bit from Angela Levin, who's a royal historian, but I think that when we all feel we have our inalienable personal sovereignty, but I'm afraid if you're a member of the royal family, I don't think that applies. You don't. You're born into this. And
isn't your duty to your wife?
That's arguable. But let's hear from Angela Levin to see what the Queen might have, how the Queen might have responded.
The Queen will be very upset, and I think that she possibly doesn't have really the courage or the willpower to deal with these sort of issues at her age. Her whole aim in life has been duty and for the royal family to continue. But, you know, Harry is an individual who can make his choice. The fact he's now sixth in line means that he doesn't go to all the state events as he would do if he was higher up.
I think it all comes down to money. When Harry isn't inside the firm, he's controlled by the firm. He can't make money outside the firm. This absolutely opens up a Pandora's box, which is why the Queen has no idea, in a way, how to react, yet this will take a long time to work out.
But presumably he'll continue to get the couple of million a year that his father gives to the two boys. She could easily go back, if she's going to live in Canada, where a lot of American series are made because of the tax breaks. She could go back to acting, and she would earn an awful lot of money. They can have another life. And I think they've chosen that that's what they're going to do.
Unless, Greg, and we must respect this, if Meghan has helped Harry unlock the demons from losing his mum, being forced to walk behind the gun carriage at his mother's funeral, and this man clearly has had emotional issues, if he just can't put up with the flashbulbs, then we have to respect that. And we have to allow him to step away. I just absolutely concur with what Rachel says. Then you have to fully move away. You can't have... It is the cake and eat it.
But I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, this is a transitional stage.
But on the other hand, if they do lose all that royal lustre, all the titles, all the association, what is the Sussex brand then? I mean, what is Harry? He's, as you said, lieutenant.
Household cavalry. £36,000 per annum.
Not even serving. Meghan has retired from acting. What do they do?
But that would have happened anyway to Harry, because as he gets older and another generation of royals come through that are William's children, he becomes less important.
Do you think this is Hollywood trying to seek the control they enjoy, Hollywood stars, and they're not getting it in the royals, Michelle?
Well, I just think this has been announced a bit too early, because to me there seems to be so much that needs to be thought through. You know, you just announced there about the Buckingham Palace statement, and as I mentioned, I don't think the Queen was privy to this statement before it went out.
She had no knowledge
Why
of
wouldn't
it.
you have sat down as a family and gone, right, this is what we're going to do, how's it going to work, let's do a collective joint statement, and then all of these questions and pontifications about are they going to keep the titles and what about this, that'd just be mute and null and void.
Presumably they've made up their minds and they don't want the pressure that will come on them from the rest of the family to change that.
Yeah.
This is what they've decided to do.
But then you go to your family, this is what we're doing, end of story. You work out...
So you got to see your granny every time you wanted to change your life?
Well, no, but I'm not a royal. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
But what's so weird is he can resign from his own family.
Yes.
I mean, when none of us are in that position, we know we can't, but he appears to be.
But most people's families aren't actual businesses, though, with the media scrutiny that comes along with that. It's totally reasonable to want to step away from that.
And also the £1.8 billion in tourism, that the fact that you are a family and you're on show and you have your duties to perform, brings to the nation every year.
Has, Michelle, do you think Meghan has changed Harry for the good or the bad, or no difference at all?
I don't know. I think that when you become a partnership, things do change, whoever you are. And I do think I've always, and I've said it on this show, I've always felt sorry for Harry because going behind that cough, that's your mum.
That's
it doesn't
terrible
matter.
decision.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what, you know, to us it's the Queen and Princess and Princes. It's your mum. And to do that in front of such a public audience and to have lost your mum in that way, you know, he's always had an uncomfortable relationship with the press, for example, as well, hasn't he?
He has.
I think the one thing we'd all agree is that there is some sympathy for him.
Of course.
Yeah.